Greetings. I wanted to share like my strange encounter where years after my encounter I found a book, actually, Terence McKenna, that actually confirmed what I saw. So we're like sitting there, and our brain state is where you would call the psychedelic state would be. We've been sitting by the fire, meditating and bringing any energies till everything just got really droopy and weird, like, you know, very trippy. And then I felt something around me must have changed. So the thing is, as you hear the environmental sounds right now around me, you hear things ringing, the wind blowing, the birds chirping, stuff flying in the wind, activities, kids, cars passing by, planes. That is, if you can tune in, that is the algorithm when time-space actually naturally functions. And when that modality changes, as in, let's say, all of a sudden all sounds stops as if muted. Birds stop singing, bees are not buzzing, the wind is not blowing, and it's like freeze. Then you know something is going on. So that requires observation. Dimensional layers are very close. We don't even know how close they are. Once we know, it's like, oh, you know, it's like walking through the park. Once you know the path, you can always go back there. But if you don't know the path, you have actually no clue. So many people that talked about, you know, whether the ancients should have taken the sacrament or not. To me, there's at least no debate that the ancients did what they had to do, because that's the teaching. That in the Western civilization, in a sober mind state, and I don't care if you're a TM practitioner, yogi, or whatever you call yourself, you can't reach these brain states. You're not making contact. That's impossible. It's like in Back to the Future, you know, the flux compensation system in the time travel machine was set to 88 miles per hour in order to jump the gate. Under that, you don't have enough velocity to traverse dimensions. Yes, the dimensions can be like divided by lines. So there are modalities in, I call them extra-dimensional physics or hyperdimensional physics. If you don't apply them, you're not traveling. You're not going interstellar. So if somebody tells you they took 1,000 mushrooms, it's ridiculous. You wouldn't have a lifetime to process the download that is actually presented to what unfolds to people. People in Peru that do ayahuasca, the shaman says one is enough to change an entire lifetime. I did 3, but that doesn't make anything extra, and that's enough for your life. Then I speak to people and they tell me, oh, I did 100. For what I had access to and what I have seen and how hard it is to really bring that from the other side here, I thought in my naive mind state that people just do this on a routine base every year. They can they're saints, they can walk over water. They're not. A lot of those people have issues and no access. So the plant doesn't make you, you make you. So there are people that have access, and not everybody is like out there. We don't get the Hollywood views. It is also not about that. I realize that when you're really a really skillful person, the official commercial reward system does not work on that. So you have to watch at who's a shepherd, who is knowledgeable, who has enough discipline you can bring back what they have seen and witnessed and described. I just want to bring that in here. So many people have this big lip of what they can and what they need to be. This is all an illusion here. With you make a choice, your choice defines your character, and your character, if it gets rigid, it gets crusty and crackles and falls apart. Nothing lasts. Everything comes in a waveform, in a wave pattern. If you know how to dance the Savuya wave with the in and outs and the ups and downs, so there is no spiritual. There is no not being spiritual. There is no pro and con. These are all based on illusions that are impressive by other illusions. And when you realize that you're much closer to your goal of just be who you are in that moment, and observe and let that ride, you move further. So nothing is absolute. There are moments in space and time, but there is a universal truth. The sky is blue, the grass is green. We can all agree on that. There's also a universal truth of how ships traverse dimensions and make contact. And if you had contact the way I had, and I have many stories, and I'm releasing them like a time released capsule when I think it's the time. It has to do with I have to feel okay with what I'm releasing and sharing with the people. And when I'm good with that, when I'm good with myself, when my higher self is in agreement with me, then we're talking. So we're sitting by the fireplace, not drunk, mind you, but you can say you feel delirious and euphoria, and you're not quite there yet because you're still in between corridors of dimensions. And then I realized that everything to me looked like as if it was controlled by an algorithm by nature. You know, when you play Zelda or other games, you can see there are algorithms and control patterns to the landscape, how the grass moves, how the wind blows, when the wind blows, everything according to how you move in the game. And interestingly, is the illusion is that the game is moving and the player that's running in the platform, that dude that runs, never moves. So imagine the blue screen and the dude running in one place, in one space. So that's us. We're never moving. We are never moving. We're moving the environment around us. That's what we do. Different perspective. So I'm sitting by the fireplace, and then I hear this interwoven. See, I'm also a sound engineer, and I felt like I heard 100,000 channels phase shifting into something that is unheard of, and it's very hard to describe. So I hear this shifting going on, and I hear, and I'm thinking, okay, maybe that's a process when we pass through the spirit realm, and your spirit's talking or whatever. So then a voice said, just look into the fire and relax. So I don't know if that was my voice, my intuition, or an angel helping me, because it's hard to decipher when you're in that state, because we're not trained enough. And that training is still required for all of us. So I'm looking into the fire, then I see the fire unfolds into different layers of dimensionalities, where I can see one flame here, the other one interwoven here, and I can see the dance in 3D, and I could have a vision, call it fifth dimensional vision. I saw rainbow patterns pulsing out the fireplace, creating a vorticular energy that basically creates this donut over the fireplace. So you're creating a steady point in space and time. That's why for shamans, making fire, that's not an ancient ritual, that's technology. That's contact technology in part, to clear yourself. So when you have a standing wave of a clear vorticular output of a vortex that you've created with fire, you're clear, you're clean, whether you believe it or not. There's processes, but you have to sit with the fire an entire night to go through that process, and things happen. So I felt like with the inner circle, the sound moved different, and then in the outer circle where the air got colder. So when the air gets hot, sound and speed and dimensions have different gateways of how they open up, how they communicate with you. And all of those downloads I get when I'm on a ship and I'm asking, how is this actually working? They say this is actually a technological construct of these dimensional spheres that higher beings have created for you to explore in this cyber dynamic, analog, natural intelligent divine design program construct with self-aligning software, SAS. Meaning you will know what to do when you develop the spiritual maturity to activate codons in you that release CDs, as in superpowers. So having epiphanies and visions and all that stuff, it's all dormant in you, it's all stored in you. Your bio's superpower tech, and all technology does is we're trying to catch up with ourselves. We are way, way, way from the future, this entire construct. And it will always go into the divine direction, no matter how the Anunnakis have disrupted and the Draconians have corrupted the time coding sequence, the code release of the codons, the genetic blueprints, how all of this was shifted. It's always coming back to divinity. It's always self-aligning. That's why some of them so-called Anunnakian false gods left, because they said, we're going to be revealed if we stay here. The planet's going to change. Earth is going to go into some different thing. Something big has happened on Earth that shifted the entire thing. I mean, the pyramids are dormant because they're out of whack. Earth is wobbling. We have the seasons and we have a moon. Now imagine this planet was much bigger. Maybe this was Tiamat, no moon. The axis of Earth wasn't doing the precession of the equinox. It wasn't wobbling, and the temperature was 22.2 degrees Celsius, like around 70, like stable. The optimum frequency in magnetics and photonic levels for you to be magical and be fully functional in any size you can imagine on this planet. That got distorted. So now, back to my contact. So I'm sitting by the fireplace, and then I hear voices going backwards. Like time and space didn't correlate how I would perceive my surrounding environment. And I'm very, very clear. It's not like I'm dizzy, and then I don't know what's going on. I was very clear and gifted enough to report that you know, many onliners that I've seen regurgitate stories from other people. Like, I'm an experiencer. I don't read in a forum and give you something that is not mine. I was there. My emotional body, me breathing heavy, just shows you I have experienced that. So the fire seems to burn backward and forward at the same time. I saw time moving in forward and backwards and sideways, and I was like, man, I'm about to lose my stuff here. This is going really, really crazy. So you see the flames going, and you hear sounds like and smoke, everything just going in reverse. And I'm like, right now my regulated three-dimensional orientation is completely out of whack. I have no idea what's going on. Still the voice, sit, look at the fire, don't move. And I felt I'm going through something, whether it's within, without, I can't tell. So I felt like I'm going through a corridor where like everything just was like the freaking rabbit hole, Alice in Wonderland, and describes the guy's trip turned into a little fantasy for kids with all the messages you need. Watch it to understand what I'm talking about. So I held focus, just sitting there looking at the fire. And then it stopped. And then I looked at my friend sitting across from me and I said, nothing makes sense right now. Nothing is real. And that is the illusion. And that's what makes sense. If that makes sense to you. And then he looked at me and said, yeah, I agree. Nothing makes sense right now. Except us here. The rest is, don't even look at anything. Laws of physics have changed around us. I don't even know what happened. But I know who has experience. I see that in people, I can tell. So here's the idea. I'm hearing a rumble in the sky. And a phase-shifting sound. You know, as if somebody knows the word flanging, it was like... like this. And I was like, okay, something is going on, high pitch, something is changing. So I couldn't put my finger on what's actually changing. And then I saw this, almost lenticular cloud. But you know, usually you see those clouds, there's bigger stadiums. This wasn't. It must have been 30 to 60 meters in diameter. And it was just hovering over the fireplace. And I looked up. And I didn't say anything because I still had in mind, thank God, that I could form that thought don't suggest anything with your ego, so others that sit around the fireplace would say the same thing just to please you because they like you. It happens. So I didn't say anything. So when I saw this cloud hovering over us and it was pumping, like it was like organically beginning to move, like this cloud didn't make sense. It looked like a cloud, but I don't know if this cloud was used as a projection field from the future, but here's how it goes. So the cloud was moving like and molding, and then all of a sudden it became this pumping, like as if somebody would massage some unseen hands would massage the cloud and molding it and molding it and molding, and all of a sudden I see the cloud splitting, going apart, center part coming together, center part splitting, side part coming together, and it went whoom, 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 and it became a rhythmic pattern, and then I could hear this whoom, 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 and that accelerated, and then it was like, and then this entire thing was vibrating at an exponential speed where you would see these things moving so fast, and out of that smoke clearly came out a ship, a metallic disc that came out of nowhere from the non-physical, for me, from my perspective, into the physical realm, and appeared like, and I would hear something like hydraulics, or I would just refer to Star Trek, doors opening and dudes in suits jumping out, checking us out because we're open. So I hear, and then I hear like as if somebody from on high landed very soft in the grass, and I'm like, they're here, but I can't see them. So then I hear, open your heart, open your heart. I'm like, I can't see you. I can hear everything, but I feel like I'm a blind man to where you are. So imagine you close your eyes by the fireplace, you hear people talking, you hear people walking around you, but you can't see them. Drove me nuts because I really wanted to go there, but apparently still I need more heart frequency that I can imagine to open up to perceive them. So then I realized when I walk through the grass, I can hear them talking. When I stopped, I couldn't hear anything. So I knew the interval of dimensions where you can hear the other realms is between the wingspan of a bee or a fly. This is how this was explained to me. That means if you make a certain noise naturally with two objects, you create an interference. That interference is the corridor to the other world. So that explains when you're in these moments and you're sitting by a water faucet and you hear it running like all of a sudden you're hearing conversations, because you're listening to the water realm clashing in between dimensions. That's where you pay attention to. That's where this takes place. I was also taught this when I was sat by the riverbed in Berlin. I was in the same delirious psychedelic state, and there was an amphibious elf who said, don't look at the surface of the water, don't look at the rocks in the river, look at the surface and then go with your visual halfway in and stop, and another realm will appear, but only when your brain is in that state. So I fathom that you have to be at 30 dyslexia coming in. See, something else wants to talk. Anyway, 40 hertz brain frequency. Your craniosacral here, which is the symbol of the scarab, is doing, your brain pumps. Usually you're around 5 hertz, 6 hertz. Bashar can go to 10 and 11. That's already like, so now a shaman that can go to the other worlds and realms and talk to these beings and make physical contact is like this. His brain is vibrating. His pineal gland is like expanding and pumping, excreting DMT. So you are the drug. There is no substance that's not you. DMT, dimethyltryptamine, is produced by your pineal gland when you're born and when you die and when you trip and when you are in that state of this deliriousness and you're accelerated. So dolphins can activate you, spaceships can activate you. Basically, if a spaceship sends you a beam and you go into that state, it's like you're tripping on psychedelics. It is the same thing. Has nothing to do with substance or no substance. It's a state of being. Whatever permission slip you use is up to you. These ships can activate that in us. And if I hadn't had 20 years ago an experience like that, I wouldn't know what experience that is. So, I hear the crew walking around, then I close my eyes because I can't see, I feel blind, and I see people in suits, futuristic humans with pads, not glass pads, and holographic pads, and they're like, can they see us? The other's not sure. Then the other one, you think they're aware of what's going on? Not sure. Another one, they're not ready yet. Then the next one said, keep your distance. Be cautious with the little ones. They're still unfolding, they're still developing, they're still learning. So they were very, very cautious, created a peripheral ring and dimensionally protected us because we were like snails out without the shell, out in the open, completely soul unbound. So ships come in when you're that, because they're very, very about you. It's very, very important. So, and when you go into these higher realms and these dimensions where the bliss is, there is no negative infiltration happening, possible. That you can't even understand that unless you have been in. And they said that there are cluster groups on Earth, starseed families. They will know one another. And they will treat one another with respect. That's the first beginning. Meaning whether it's money, whatever the modality on this planet is, when this angelic sequence comes in, you will know who's who by who's your family member. Family members you can call 3 o'clock in the morning and they jump to the phone. They're at your beckoning call. Those that are not your family, they're affiliates. They're in and out. They're not really your friends. Facebook friends, clicky here, there. Like it's surface. Soul fam speaks winged words, is peaceful to one another. That's what I got at that contact night. They will come together, and this is the second phase where they're called again to set it up, but everybody in their own individual right, so we can enrich one another in our own interdependence. I'm saying this over and over like a broken record, but they want this to be understood is that we have to build these new intergalactic businesses without corruption, because it's not needed. We are enriched, we are full, we are abundant with things that we can create that will help the planet to get better. And there is also and will be scientific proof with what we do. So we're leaving the woo-woo, coming into scientific evidence, write-ups. I have LLCs, corporations, file papers, patent stuff, like a consultant. Everything is now in physical form. So for what's being done, there's no debate going on because it won't go away. Things will be quantifiable. What is going to be, sorry for the wind, a little bit I have a lot of wind going on. Let me wait this out. Sometimes I believe they do that. So the deal is, contact people will be chosen. There have been cases where they tried to establish contact. We went to Mount Shasta, and when people are not ready, all of the private issues will actually interfere and stop them from going there, having physical contact. And for those who know that they were in the distortion, they're not having contact right now. And they won't be in a happy place until they divinely strip themselves from fake and elusive contracts that they have signed with companies, partners, or wherever you are, wherever you're with, to realize that, free yourself, and come clear, and be clear in that nature. Again, they are waiting for those who come to Mount Shasta, Sedona, or other places, experiencer groups, and they will pick who they want to make contact with. And they're making physical contact. Watch that video with Paola Harris about the Zendra gate. how they put pictures on these gates. Let me explain that also, how a Zendra gate functions. And I've never been with that group. I don't know exactly what they're going through. They went to Mount Shasta. I have to bring that in. And then when beings from the future come, they have to meet your timeline, but they have to create a bubble where two timelines meet, meaning you can walk in there and come out with a beard because you're in a different time dilution. That's very, very important. And sometimes people walk into these time bubbles, make contact, and they come out crazy because their world doesn't make sense anymore. In order to not go cuckoo, real simple, just remember this was channel 1, this is channel 2. And when you alternate, remember where you're alternating from. I suggest when you're in channel 2, don't eat over there. Because you eat over there, you manifest over there. So work in moderation with how your time sequence can modulate. That's why a man's travel in a tin can from here to Mars is crap. We will learn at some point how to go interstellar. That will be the future. So basically from that contact, time froze, everything was set at 8 o'clock. People in their tents were dead asleep as if they were like, they can control that, they can come in and they set that. And the people were switched off. Then we had a non-believer waking up that wasn't in the same time sequence that we were. But I could look out of this bubble, I could see this person, a woman coming out of her tent, looking at us estranged. That's when the entire troops backed up, went back into the ship, changed the time settings, brought us back into the time sequence. Our watches began clicking again, and that woman was really, really estranged because she woke up in a wrong moment. She wasn't supposed to wake up and witness that, and asked us what's wrong with us. We had a full contact experience. I knew that my friend saw the same thing because I told him, in your words, explain to me what did you see, and then I'll tell you if that's a match. That's what's called when you have a witness. So when you have up to 9, like with sightings up to like 20 people, we all agreed that we saw the same thing, and I let everybody else speak first, so nobody can suggest anything. Or you draw on a piece of paper what you see, and then everybody hands in their paper, and if the image matches, well, then everybody has seen the same thing. That's not mass hysteria, that you had contact. Prepare yourself, get ready, get clear, get sober. Make sure you have no biochemical imbalance when making contact. And I'm creating a group like Stephen Greer does with the C5, but let's go further. Not just have lights in the sky, have the ships come closer, like 30 feet, park crews coming out. I mean, there was one where with the Paola Harris group, a guy came like 50 feet away and waved, but told them to keep their distance, and it was very tough to hold the frequency because you're from another timeline, meeting somebody who's from another timeline. So it's like, panic attacks, what should I do, where am I? We are now on the brink of learning that. So past the UFO congresses and the narration of the fantastic stories, feel into your heart where you are called to, form those groups, find those places, and sit in and establish what needs to be established. That helps us to set up what we're here to set up and to accelerate the frequency and make contact. And on that note, more stories from the Experience of Tales to come. I love you very much, and hopefully that gave you a little bit of an insight of how the mechanics of contact can work. That it worked for me, it worked for several others of my friends, and the storyline continues. At some point we will do another retreat at Shasta. This time we will make it donation based. Well, you feel what this is worth to you. We will set what the idea would be, but nobody has to do actually anything. Nobody has to follow anything. We are just allowing ourselves to go there and experience. So contact places are flat sands, panther meadows, and the upper regions of where you actually leave timelines. When you go to those places, take your trash with you, be respectful of the nature, leave it as you found it, and great things will unfold for you to see and witness. And non-believers, go there, camp for 5 days and tell me you haven't seen anything, which is impossible actually. But you'd have to be blind, like it's like a cloud in front of you, and all you have to do is look up. If you're not looking up, then you can't blame anybody that actually dares to look. So on that note, I'll see you on the other side, the flip side. Peace.